So I colored my hair, not only the stuff on my face, but on my head as well. Interesting story it is. What happened is that a few days back, someone who's like 40 years older to me sent someone to meet me, and when that person met me, he said that I think your elder brother sent me to meet you. And it did not make me feel very good about myself, because I did not want to look like a few years younger than someone who was 40 years older to me. It has been exactly like, I think, a year since I saw Bala and decided I was not going to do anything about my hair, because let it be the way it is, and I'm good with that. But I think it took 1 year for the effect of that film to wash off. So I've colored my hair. I don't think I'm going to do it on a regular basis. Getting on with the book to be discussed today, I'm going to be discussing Brandon Sanderson's The Final Empire, the first book in the MISTBORN trilogy. The first thing that I want to say is that if you're planning to read this book, the first thing you need to keep in mind is do not read this book after reading the Stormlight Archives. The Way of Kings, if you want to read that, read this book first and then jump onto the Stormlight Archives. Read the Mistborn series and then read the Stormlight Archive series. Because I think I heard the author himself say at some point of time or the other in some interview or some talk that he was doing, that this was actually a warm-up for what he had planned to write for the Stormlight Archives. So yes, it does read slightly like that. It does not come across as something as grand, as detailed, and as believable as the Stormlight Archives. There's a 4 years gap between the two books, I think. The Stormlight Archives came out in 2010, the first book, which is The Way of Kings, and this book, the Mistborn series first book, The Final Empire, came in 2006. So in these 4 years, I think there has been a tremendous growth in terms of the writing abilities and the writing style that Brandon Sanderson possessed. Story set in a world where the evil guy, who is referred to as the Lord Ruler, has won, and he has been ruling the lands for over 1,000 years. He is considered a godlike figure with immense powers, supernatural and magical, and he is believed to be immortal and cannot be killed. Now there's a band of people who want to defeat the Lord Ruler, who want to kill him and end the evil rule, and that's what the whole story is all about. There are two main characters in the story, Vin and Calcia, and both of them are really nicely fleshed out. And if for nothing else you want to read this book, you want to know the story, just to know what is the fate of these two people. Again, this book was pushed as a book which explores the idea of what if the dark side won. And it was projected that that was something which was new about this book. Because as the classic structure of epic fantasy goes, it is always a battle between the good and the evil when the evil is defeated in the end. So this book kind of starts from that end, that the evil won and the good got defeated, and what then after that. But I didn't find this idea very new because when I was a little kid, I saw the Star Wars movies, and that's precisely what happened. The Darth Vader, the dark side, had won, and then it was ruling all over the galaxy, and so on and so forth. So that I didn't work for me. But yes, what did work for me was the kind of the world that had been built and the magic systems. I have not read a lot of fantasy, but as much as I have read these, the magic systems in this book, they kind of read innovative, and I had not seen anything like that before in any of the books that I have read so far. What I also liked about this book was that it was pretty clean in its treatment. There were not so many characters that you would find it difficult to keep a track of them. The storyline was just singular. There was this one plot line that was going on, and there were no deviations much, no subplots or anything which you would find difficult to keep following and keep remembering. Yes, there were some backstories of some main characters, but they were backstories, they were not subplots. And in spite of having a limited set of characters and a singular plot which does not branch out into any subplots or anything else, this book still does not read as something which has been stretched. It's been over, I think, more than 600 pages. Yes, it's more than 600 pages, around 650 or something. But still the book never feels stretched or it feels like you're stuck. The book has like really good pacing. Quick insert, something which I forgot to mention in the main video when I was making. There were a few good quotes in the book. There were a few lines which I did highlight. One was about lying, like, I think it went something like, good liars are the ones who don't lie all the time, or something like that. And there were a few more about nature of love. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click pictures of those and I'm going to put them in the video so you can just read them on your own, because I'm not going to read them out. Also, this book does read as a conclusive story. There is a defined beginning and a defined ending. Yes, there is a soft spring that kind of hints that yes, there's going to be more. The story will continue and it's not come to an end yet. But after finishing this first book, you are satisfied in terms of yes, there was one story that has been told to you and it did start and it did end. This is something which I find very... I can't say upsetting or disturbing, but unsatisfying rather. That generally when it comes to series of books and when it comes to trilogies and things like that, the first book is essentially just like a teaser of sorts for what is to come. For example, if I pick up Game of Thrones and if I remember what I read in the first book of the series, I don't think I felt that the story has come to an end. But yes, there was something which really pushed me to pick up the next book, which essentially should be the purpose of the first book of the series. But I don't know. I'm one of those who when I finish a book, I want to feel that yes, something ended with this book, and there has to be some sort of conclusion that the book should give out. The book is divided into 5 parts, probably a typical 5-act structure. But if you ask me, I enjoyed the initial parts more than the concluding parts. I think up till part 3, I loved the way things were going. It was a nice pace. It was gentle. I was slowly getting to know what is happening, who is who, what are their motivations, and there was some kind of intrigue. Okay, why is this character behaving like this, and what's happening with those characters? All of that. The 4th part was okay. It kind of concretized things and set a platform for what was to come in the end, what was the climax was to be. But the climax, I think, happened way too quickly, and without giving any spoilers, things just happened so easily that I was like, ये क्या ऐसे कैसे, मतलब ऐसे कैसे खत्म हो सकता है? Because the build up had been so strong, but then in the end things felt a little kind of rushed, which is there, but anyway. But then again, also I understand that this is the first book of a trilogy, and which kind of continues in another set of books later, which happens after a few thousand years in the same world. So I think it's kind of unfair to comment on a series, to comment on a story like that, because the story has not come to an end yet. So maybe things will turn out differently, and maybe what we see as the last incident here is probably not the last incident, and things will come together again in a different way. So I would need to read the second and third book before I really comment on that. So I'm going to stop talking about the Final Empire here, and I'm going to read the other book, and then I'll make another video about it. But I want to mention that I started reading Ursula K. Le Guin's The Earthsea books, and I have a very huge volume. It's kind of becoming cumbersome to hold this thing and read, because it's just way too heavy. And I do lift weights, but still I'm finding it difficult to hold this book and read. I have to put it somewhere, and I just can't hold it like this, and it's cumbersome. So if you're planning to read these books, I would suggest that go for individual volumes. Don't buy this huge heavy thing. There is a lot of art inside, but honestly it's not impressive enough to go through all the trouble that these fat volumes brings with it. So yes, that. But what I'm reading in this book, it's really charming. And if you really ask me, I'm enjoying this book way more than I enjoyed the MISTBORN first book, The Final Empire. So without getting further into this, I think I'm almost convinced that this is going to be a strong recommendation from my side for anyone who wants to read fantasy and who does not want to get into some very heavy, grimdark kind of a stuff. This book is definitely for children, but still works for me at least. So what are you reading these days? How has your new year been so far? For me, it's been exciting, and I think I'm going to meet my reading targets quite efficiently this time. Also, I'm planning to start a series of book giveaways from my next video on, and I'm going to be doing some kind of quiz which will be contained in that video itself. So keep a check next time on. You might win the books that I'll be giving out. And until next time, cheers.